is going on, guys? Welcome back into the film room. I'm your host, Eric Turner. It's the unfortunately, final film room of the season. The Bills obviously lost in the AFC Championship game to the Chiefs, but we're still going to roll through. We're going to go through some film. We're going to break down some film with you guys. And, of course, for the final time this season, well, for the Bills season, I'm sure we'll do some prospects film room sessions. Nate Geary, for joining me, brother.
Yeah, I all week has sort of felt like narrating, like people. It's like losing a family member and then having everyone ask you to make them feel better. That's kind of what my job has been this week. Is just everyone's like, yeah, Nate, like it's like narrating a funeral. So that's how this week has gone. So I'm actually pretty excited to. I think this is one of the steps to recovery. Is you got to bury the hatchet. I think we got to bury the hatchet on this one.
Yeah, you got to have closure. I know a lot of guys and people are, disappointed in the loss, but you also got to think about it this way, guys. It was a great season, a lot of fun. We barely had to do film rooms when it came to the film on losses. So, as Nate said, you got to have some closure, and I know a lot of people aren't ready for that. So I get it, and you can watch this a few days from now. It'll obviously be there, but if you are going to join us tonight, we appreciate everyone joining us in the chat room. And most of the people you see in the chat room every week, like Joseph, he's a guy that's always here every week with us, win or lose with the Bills. Ron as well, man. He's a subscriber to Cover One. He's always in the Slack channel with us as well. And we appreciate the shout out for the love of our channel. It's obviously a lot of work for our content creators, but when we, Nate and I, we get together every week and we get to talk football, get to talk, obviously a quarterback position, a position that Nate has played, I've coached up. So we do enjoy this. Even though it does suck that they lost, we do like it. And as Ron said, please hit that like button, leave a comment. Let's hear where you're from, what city, what state, what country. Leave some comments in there after we aren't live anymore. We appreciate those that are joining us live right now. So Nate, man, obviously Bills didn't get done in the conference championship game. It was a game that felt like the Chiefs were playing in another gear. The level of play, the play speed just was on another level, and I think that's great for this team. Even though in a loss, I think that experience, that extra gear that they realized, okay, we got to take it to another level, because they ended the season on a really hot streak, but getting to that conference championship game against a team like the Chiefs that is well coached, well schemed, has all the talent in the world, the physicality, the speed angle, all of those buzzwords and all of those great things that make them Super Bowl champions. The Bills saw that firsthand, and they were outclassed from pretty much the first snap.
It was refreshing to hear Brandon Beane's press conference today and him say flat out that as it stands right now, they're not a Super Bowl contender. I thought that is really maybe even more of a harsher look in the mirror than maybe even I would have admitted. And I think that's refreshing as hell. And I think it's a really good way to look at what happened in that game, because it just felt that the team the Bills were playing, and maybe going to that game, I think I said this on the radio, like maybe it was 8 out of 10 times. I thought that Kansas City at home would probably beat the Bills 8 times out of 10 if they played them. I left that game feeling like the Bills wouldn't win a game against them in a 10-game series. And I think that's not a shot at the Bills as much as it's a testament to just how good the Kansas City Chiefs are. They're going to win the Super Bowl. If you put money against Kansas City, don't tell me about it, because I don't want to hear about your problems after you lose money. That Kansas City Chiefs team, and I said this, and I'm not going to take credit for saying this or originating this idea that Kansas City all season long playing in these close games were basically asleep at the wheel, and they're the only team maybe ever in terms of offense that can flip a switch. When they flip the switch, that's the product they get, an unstoppable force. And I guess the positive that I'll leave this, and then we can get into this film because I know we got a lot to break down, is the Bills, and in particular their third-year quarterback, their fourth-year head coach, their third-year offensive coordinator going into this. All of these guys got invaluable working experience understanding what it takes to win in this time of year. And it was the biggest thing about, I think Kansas City learned their lessons in 2018. They applied those principles in 19. They won a Super Bowl and they're well on their way to another one. I think it's you don't know at times what you can and can't get away with, how you have to bring a different level of focus on the opponent, on the small details. Those are only things that you can experience by getting into the conference championship game and knowing the harsh realities of defeat. And I think you can't have any more valuable experience for Josh Allen. He now knows in those games. I expect him next year in the years when he's in the playoffs to look like a much more comfortable player because the weight of the world's not on his back. So I'm upset, of course, and I'm disappointed of the outcome and feeling like they really weren't very competitive. All of those things aside, I leave knowing that the quarterback of the future has gained invaluable working experience. There's no other way he would have been able to gain it.
Yeah, and he's the type of player that obviously is very harsh on himself. You saw him dejected after the game, just realizing how, as he said, they didn't bring their A game. The Chiefs' defensive scheme against Brian Daboll's offensive game plan, they were just on another level. It was diverse. A lot of people try to pinpoint, okay, was it the 4-man rush? Was it the blitz? Was it this? Was it that? Too high, single high? You guys have to understand that Josh Allen, the Bills offense, they're one of the best offenses, and there's not just one game plan or one specific strategy to stop the Bills offense. It has to be a well-executed game plan to beat the Bills offense, and the Chiefs came up with that. I mean, one of the things that really stood out to me after watching the film, and some of the things you're going to see on film we'll talk about real quick, is how they used their edge players. Guys like Frank Clark, Passignon, the big defensive end for the Chiefs, and even some of their secondary edge role players, they used them inside at defensive tackle on passing downs and to increase that speed with Josh Allen to not just keep him in the pocket, but to use those guys as spies, use them on those twists, and really just disrupt him and get him off his spot. And when you put those speed players and guys that are used to playing on the edge up against the John Felicianos and the Ike Bakers, and then you add in Chris Jones, who's just a powerful freak up the middle, like throwing all these different types of strategies at the offensive linemen, which for the most part this year was, I think they overachieved as far as pass blocking goes because of especially with all the movement that was done there before they actually settled in. I thought, Spags he did a great job of just confusing the offensive line, sending speed at Josh Allen. Obviously, the speed of the game speed, as we talked about, affected Josh Allen. Then they threw some awesome blitzes that you'll see on some of this film and simulated pressure.
Very timely. Very timely blitzes.
And then as we saw, I mean, it's been talked about, ad nauseum, is the physicality.
The Bills were not
all over. They were all over the receivers, right? I mean,
they didn't respond well from a trenches. And listen, dude, you said it on this show last week. Yeah. You and I, it had been in my mind all week. You mentioned that they had just in that week 6 matchup, that offensive and defensive lines, they got whipped, they got embarrassed. And I thought, and I know that you thought that they were going to come with a different mindset and a different level of confidence and a different level of continuity and understanding of their game and their identity. And both lines, the offensive and defensive line, were just absolutely blown off the ball. Yep. It was no contest. It was a throw in the towel type of performance. Add in that was the first time maybe, and now we're learning, Cole Beasley is not at 100%. That absolutely affected him and his ability.
You can see it in his cuts. Yeah, you could see it. I mean, even Gabriel Davis obviously didn't play all that much. And they just got physical in the trenches.
Unhealthy at a very unfortunate time, playing against a certain kind of buzzsaw that was that Kansas City. And listen, we went, and very little people myself included, gave the Kansas City defense a lot of credit going into this game, thinking they weren't one of the highlights of this team. Their ability, they were pound for pound as good running man press coverage as the Baltimore Ravens. In fact, I couldn't tell you that I saw much of a drop off, and they have way more well-known players that the Ravens do in their defensive backfield, other than Tyrann Mathieu. Rashad Breeland is not a guy that is a household name in the league that you would consider a high-end guy that can just shut down
Snead.
Like
he's good though, man. That young corner, like he did a good number on Beasley. And the other part of their strategy was to send pressure off the edges. And Snead, he blitzed more times than he has all year. It was in the double digits. It was very similar to what the Cardinals did halfway through the season against the Bills is where they sent a lot of those, slot blitzes. So they got that speed. Again, that speed affected Josh Allen and the offensive pass protection up front for the Bills. I just thought it was a really good game plan from them. And, it wasn't one given thing that stopped or slowed down Josh Allen. They just kept coming in waves. It was this and it was that. And, they just could never catch up, man. So those are the type of things I want you guys to pay attention to when we're actually breaking down the film here. So, Nate, without further ado, you want to jump right into this film or what?
Let's send it.
All right, let's do this. So there will be at least one play, guys, that has some audio. So, and I thought early in this game, Nate, I thought really Josh Allen and
they looked.
He looked. I'm like this pass to Beasley. Was money. It's a play they ran a lot of this year. That RPO slant. He ran it right behind Snead. Nice little soft throw over the middle, and I was like 17 yards off the bat. We're off to the races. I love it.
Yeah, first drive, they certainly looked the part. And, we talk about this all the time in his film breakdown. We can get a pretty good feel on the first couple of throws, what kind of day it's going to be for Josh Allen. And if you're, expecting to use this play as sort of the theme of the day, we end up leaving this film room pretty disappointed.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. I mean, right on his hands, 17 yards. Okay, we're in business. I like it. I like getting him comfortable. That's one of his
bring the ball out quickly.
Yeah. So we fast forward to 3rd and 7, and you're going to see Stephon Diggs on a pivot route. So the Chiefs show man coverage. And so you see Josh go ahead and change the play at the line of scrimmage. And so to the top, they have Knox, they have Breeland on Knox, but to the bottom, the Bills get a mismatch. They get Sorensen in the slot against Diggs. You see the safety come down and say, hey, Sorensen, get on your man, get on Diggs right there. Bills are in business here. 3rd and 7. That's the matchup you want. And so Josh puts him into a pivot, and again, it's a mismatch. And unfortunately, Chris Jones just smokes Feliciano right here. And so Josh has really nowhere to go. He wants to step up just a little bit, but that pocket is closing in on him. So now he just kind of backs up just a little bit and gets a throw off here to Diggs, but it's inaccurate. It's on the inside shoulder. Diggs has to turn, and he's knocked out of bounds by Sorensen. So that pressure up the middle, again, a theme for the night. Chris Jones ate, as he did in week 6, against Feliciano several times in this game, really threw off the timing of this play.
I don't know if you noticed this early in the game. It was the first play. I don't know what was said, but there was Feliciano ends up taking like a half open-handed fist from Chris Jones at this point. Mm-hmm. They kind of woke up the beast really early in this game, and I mean, Chris Jones just made it a point he wanted to line up over Feliciano and just dominate it. He did a lot in this game, and this is tough because this is tough in your quarterback to make this throw falling backwards, changing the slot position of your arm, and trying to throw with any level of accuracy. This is a really difficult throw, and it's made difficult based on the fact that he has nowhere to go, step up to, step behind, or step over to because of where Chris Jones is. And with the other defensive tackle on this play, if you look, does a nice job of basically number 98 of hemming off any opportunity for Josh to break away as a runner up the middle. So the only escape here is maybe if he bails out and can outrun the defender that's coming around the edge on Darrell Williams. But again, I think, with all said and done, this is about as much as Josh Allen can do on this play. He makes the completion, which you want to see, but on 3rd and, in this many yards, you have a very small margin of error. And, Sorensen does a good job of kind of cutting off the angle and getting him out of bounds. It's a tough play. I mean, credit for them for completing the pass. And then I think maybe equally credit for them going for that on this 4th down. And again, I think this was another sign for me of like, man, the Bills are on today. This was an unbelievable play call. We saw this on the other side just a week prior. And what I loved about this play is there's too much here for the defense to defend. And the decision to go for it where they are, love it. The first couple of plays, love it. And you're thinking to yourself, they're aggressive, they're moving the sticks, and they're in plus territory en route to score on their opening drive. You could not ask for a better start to this game. And it's too bad that, the decision-making, this aggressive mindset, this is who they've been all year. They go for it in this situation, and it's disappointing. I know we'll get a lot of it to that later on in this film breakdown. But, it's disappointing that they moved away from this aggressive mindset because I thought they had multiple opportunities in this game to, stick closer, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, again, RPO pop pass. So there's your first read. Obviously give to Yeldon or keep it. That's a keep give right there, a keep read. So now the third layer to this is obviously the pop pass to Dawson. The guy that was over Dawson, Sorensen, steps up to stop Josh Allen. So there's a little pop pass. So first down, again, aggressive early on, 4th and 1 situation. Again, a play that they're comfortable running. You're giving your quarterback options. There was either the handoff, the keep and run with Allen, and then that throw to Dawson Knox. So fourth play of this breakdown is a play action pass, and it just the DBs for the Chiefs did such a good job of just being sticky and being physical. Watch Cole Beasley in the slot off this play action pass. He gets contacted by Snead, and Snead just shoves him to the ground eventually. And now Josh has nowhere to go. Look at the coverage down the field to the bottom of the screen on Diggs. You have good outside leverage by that corner Ward. He's got a post safety up top, so that post is taken away. And then you have an in-breaking route to John Brown to the top, but he's so far outside the numbers, and he's got to work back across the middle of the field. That really is not much of an option, especially because the pressure that Josh is seeing in the pocket. So he ends up throwing it away. So just really good coverage over the middle there. You see Beasley have to work through traffic, and then again Snead just gets in his pocket there and just throws him to the ground, and they have nowhere to go. And it was like this all night.
Yeah, it was just there. It was reactionary. That's what it felt all night. Like the offense and defensive lines were both reacting instead of sort of setting the tone. And this is a good example of that. And again, I think you make the point on this play on the timing of which, John Brown potentially comes open, even if he is open, which this would have been a very high level anticipatory 25, 26 air yards types of throw that you need to throw before he makes the break into the numbers. And there's no guarantee based on what he's looking at right now that he's going to break that coverage and make himself available to make the catch. So that is, I don't want to call it it was an impossible throw to make. So I don't blame him for moving away from that. And what do we want to see from Josh? Deep. And what do we want to see from Josh? And what he didn't do a lot of times in this game is he tried to hold on to the ball too long. He takes big sacks. He had 4 sacks for 53 yards in this game. And it was one of the major things that crushed them. And you cannot get yourself behind it in 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20 situations. And they were in it all night. And I think it's one of the main reasons they ended up losing this game.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is a play where, prior to the snap, Josh thinks he sees cover 0. So he calls the alert, thinks he sees 0, middle of the field open, man coverage. So he calls the alert. And this is that RPO that was just defended beautifully. And why does he think that it's going to be 0? Because he saw the safety Thornhill to the bottom of the screen. He's capping that nickel defender. You see the nickel defender right here, kind of shaded inside right there. And so he's like, okay, with Matthew to the top over Knox, this is probably cover 0. I'm going to check to this RPO right here. So again, you get that read where he's going to keep it, and you get the bubble screen to Beasley, but Thornhill, who is an amazing athlete, comes from depth, takes a really good angle there, and really forces Josh to hold on to it. And now it's just scramble drill. Beasley tries wheeling up the sideline, but guys, watch Thornhill get right into the pocket of Beasley and just watch him play this. He's in phase. Now he's playing the ball. I mean, Beasley became the defender. Like that's really good. Thornhill might have been the best defender on the field. And that's saying a lot, given that Matthew, Chris Jones, and all of those, the Chiefs have some really good players on that side of the ball. Thornhill stood out.
Yes, he did. I mean, they've got one of the best safety tandems in the league, and it was on full display. And one of the things I know Josh talked about in this game, which credit to Steve Spagnuolo for designing plays that they got so late into the sequence of the play where Josh then realized, oh no, I started with a play, I got out of it, and they didn't give him enough time to realize that they were still in a good position to run the original play to reload it. So he wasn't able to get back to the original play based on the timing of when he actually makes the audible. And that's just a chess mind game that Steve Spagnuolo played all day with them. And when you're guessing, that just plays right into the hands of an aggressive defense like this that runs man coverage. When they've got you guessing on their man or zone looks, they're winning. And I think that's just a really good example of a throw like this becomes so much more difficult. And listen, RPOs are hard to defend. I don't know that you could have potentially defended this RPO play any better. They blitzed right into it. It forced Allen. He had 2 primary defenders he had to run around. Mm-hmm. The run got taken away, and both pass options got taken away. I mean, you just can't really. It's just hats off to the defense for a great great job defending the RPO. Again, a difficult concept to guard most games.
Yeah, and I love this question. It's come up several times on social media in our Slack channel. Ron asked, why didn't the Bills run more motion right before the snap? That seemed to be working when we had McKenzie in the game, but we didn't use it much. And my answer to that has been, guys, you got to understand, when you're motioning a guy, especially on those jet action time snaps to the quarterback, that changes the formation. It can go to a 3-by-1 to a 2-by-2, which can change the coverage, and which obviously changes the defensive front, which can change your protection. So when you have guys like Tyrann Mathieu that likes to play around the box, that likes to blitz, like teams that send corners off the slot, or just blitzers from the second level, changing a protection when maybe you had it slid to Chris Jones to double him, changing that jet action and incorporating that can change your protection, guys, and that could leave you high and dry when it comes to, again, worrying about the Nick Bosas of the world, the TJ Watts, the Chris Joneses, the Tyrann Matthews. Like, that changes protection. I think a lot of people don't realize how in tune a formation of 3-by-1, 2-by-2 is tied to.
And if it changes the strength of an offense or the defensive side of the ball,
yes,
it immediately cues a change from the defense. So yes, in theory, and this is typically what people use, the idea of what motion actually provides an offense. Of course, it helps the quarterback ID, but you do that more so with a running back or a fullback, where you've got a 3-by-2 and you bring the running back in from an out wide position and bring him back into the backfield. You don't want to, in this game, you probably, to your point with Chris Jones, don't really want to see a lot of McKenzie coming back and forth, where you can help your quarterback do the IDing at the line of scrimmage. It's better done with a running back, especially if you see a linebacker go out with the running back to go cover him, or start with a running back. Right. What you're hoping to see pre-snap is who goes over the running back, not necessarily whether, McKenzie goes from one side or the other. That's not as valuable to reading pre-snap as much as, say, starting a running back out as a wide receiver and then bringing him in to see who follows and see how the defense shifts and sort of responds to that shift in strength. But you're spot on about, and I think it's the who, right? It's who are they shifting, because that really, you don't want to do too much of it, to your point. But for the most part, this is meant to help Josh and help him ID the coverage.
Yeah, that's the purpose.
You can't, sometimes you have to balance, wanting to help him pre-snap with also not wanting to shift the defense out of a look that you're trying to play against.
Especially if those check with me calls, like, there's a lot of variables to a play. And if we're talking just those pop passes out of shotgun and just those fake jet sweeps, again, that you're timing the snap, he's right at the quarterback at the snap, that can really screw up what happens as that ball is snapped. It can change protections, it can change coverages, changes a lot of different things that most people don't quite understand. So the short answer is that to help at Josh Allen, using the jet action pop pass type things will, unless they're just handing it to him and giving it to McKenzie, that's one thing. But if they're using it to try to use as eye candy, I think the window dress, you're getting a little dicey, because again, Josh is still growing in that department. So let's go on to the next play. And this was actually a good throw. It was great anticipation to Diggs on the in-break route to the bottom of the screen. You have Beasley in the slot. I want you to watch Thornhill break on this ball. Again, stood out in all of this film. But the throw, the anticipation, and the placement by Josh Allen was money on the back hip, saves him a hit, but Diggs drops it over the middle.
It's a tough play. I mean, again, you're talking about Thornhill is one of the best young safeties in the league. He's coming off an ACL. He's going to be better over the next couple of years. He's young and he's good. And this is just a good play by the defender, breaking and making enough contact with the pass catcher in a legal way to discharge him from the ball. And that's tough to do with Stefon Diggs. He's got as sticky hands as anybody in the league. And again, I mean, your point with the throw on this is spot on. And it's a really small window. I mean, this is as good of a throw as you want. And this is the tough part of this game, is this throw right here indicates, I think Josh is on here early in this game. Plays like this, when factors outside of Josh's control, this plays like this, you really need, this is a building block type play for the rest of the game. And instead of it having the positive result and potential chain reaction, I think it may have started a chain reaction in the other way.
Yeah, and look, I mean, here's an example. This is just a running back coming into the formation. Look what Hitchens is doing, the linebacker here. He's changing the front. He's changing the play. And Josh is watching it unfold. And on the snap, he's like, okay, now he's got to change obviously now he's getting a different coverage here, but he reads it really well. He reads the Mike Hitchens going to the right side there. It opens up the middle of the field. And this reminds me of a throw, Nate, you'll remember it, against the Raiders where Max Crosby got a piece of this ball, but the velocity
still
of the throw
got through.
That's the same exact play that we saw earlier in the year. So later in the game, 3rd and 3 situation. We're in the first quarter still, 9:39 on the clock. And it's a mesh concept over the middle on 3rd down. And so you see the Chiefs changing the matchups. They want Breeland in the slot over Knox, Sorensen to the running back up top. But eventually what's going to end up happening is Matthew and Breeland are going to switch. And so Josh is at the line of scrimmage right now, changing the play. You'll see him even set the protection. So they're in empty. 3 receivers to the top of the screen. There he's setting the protection right there. And this is a player, he's pressured. It's a nice mesh concept with different levels with Diggs and Beasley. I think Beasley to the top right here is the primary just based on where Josh is looking. And watch Thornhill again. He's the deep safety, and I say deep in he's really not that deep. Watch how he, on the snap, he jumps Diggs' route coming across the middle. So they're really double teaming, bracketing Diggs, and they're even trying to get a bracket on Beasley right here with the linebacker as Beasley runs that little juke route over the middle. But Josh sees that it's man coverage, 3rd and short. He's pressured again with up the middle because Feliciano blows a block, and then it's Josh Allen off to the races. Really good job of identifying the coverage, getting them in the right play, getting the protection set up. But again, protection broke down up the middle, and it allowed Josh to break the pocket here. And just look at Hitchens again. He was a general for the Chiefs on Sunday. Here he's telling Thornhill, hey, make sure you're robbing Diggs here. I'm going to be the underneath wrap player to help on anything else coming across the middle. So really good bracket coverage, but Josh, again, just evades the rush, and then he's off to the races.
Yeah, frankly, I think that the Bills offense didn't make the Chiefs pay more with Josh Allen runs when they run man coverage. And listen, if you're facing a team that runs a lot of man coverage that has really good press corners, you're going to, as a quarterback, have to run the ball more than maybe you want to over the course of a game to try to get them out of running all of those looks. And I think, Josh could have ripped off another one of these or a couple more of these runs earlier on in this game. I think maybe that's the difference of them extending some drives. I think using him more with his feet inside the red zone when they really lock things down. Listen, these concepts won against man coverage all year long. I don't blame them for being a little, shell shy or, shell shocked, I should say, because they're watching plays they beat teams in man coverage with all year long get absolutely neutralized from a schematic and execution level that no one had done at any point this season, even in weather games where they had more success, against the Ravens in those crossing route concepts against the wind being the 12th defender than they did in this game. So again, this is hats off to their defense for, just locking things up. But, I can't say that I blame Allen for maybe gripping the ball a little tighter and seeing maybe the morale of these receivers go down a little bit in this game, just knowing we've been beating teams. We've been scoring 56 on these concepts, doing the same exact things against better corners. So I just, from a mental perspective, this game wore on these pass catchers, and you could tell by the 3rd and 4th quarter.
Yeah, and they're getting leaned on by the corners and safeties, and
just physical.
Man, it was. They made them earn every blade of grass. 3-by-1 situation here. Diggs is motioning to the top, and you can see they disguise it so well. As someone said in the chat, the safeties were played pretty shallow in this game. They're a robbing type coverage defense with Matthew and Thornhill, as you saw all game. So there's really no cues whether this is zone or man. But if you look to the top of the screen, you have 1, 2, 3 to the bottom, 1, 2, 3 on 2, right? 3 on 2 receivers now. So you think, we're in good shape. As an offense, we're in good shape, especially with the concept that they're going to run. But on the snap, just as the ball snapped, you see Sorensen, the safety, and you see Snead, the slot corner to the bottom, rush, and the Chiefs drop out into Palms coverage. So it's still 3 on 2, but what 3 are on 2 is what's different. You have a linebacker and you have a defensive lineman dropping out into the middle, and they defend it really well. And Singletary does a good job of stymieing the rush by Sorensen to the top. But as you'll see from the end zone angle, Darrell Williams has to escort the defensive end inside to Feliciano, and obviously the speed of Snead right there is tough to stop. He bends and flattens to Josh Allen, and Josh is trying to stiff arm him, loses a ton of yards, and it's something he did far too often in this game. Here is the end zone angle. Nate, you see the edge rusher 57 have to get escorted inside by Daryl Williams, and then Snead is just off the edge. Look at the little arm over right there. Like that guy he was spectacular as far as a pass rusher in this game. Like I think he rushed like 10 or 12 times in this game as a pass rusher. And I mean, it was smart. That speed really disrupted Josh Allen's timing.
Yeah, and if you go back to the broadcast angle too, I think one of the things that you end up seeing on this play that I think is just it's a tough play, because I know Wanning on this play, and we don't know ultimately where his reads should be on this play. But if he knew that Snead was coming off the edge like that, I got to believe maybe he starts this onto his right, because I think he waits too long. And by the time he recognizes the free rusher that makes his way around Daryl Williams, there's just not enough time for him to make a logical play or something that makes sense to him. And I think if he starts right and then goes left, he can either throw right into this blitz or give himself an opportunity to get out of the tackle box and get rid of the football and get on to the next play. I just think ultimately he doesn't see him right now. So he doesn't see him until the last minute. And then it's just a Josh Allen. And this is the best and worst of Josh Allen, right? Because you love that he wants to try to make a play, that he's going to scave off a defender. But in this game, I mean, this play, I mean, you could have rewound this and ran the same way 3 or 4 times, because all of the sacks that he took looked exactly like this, where he's losing yards, and trying to make a play out of something that just wasn't there. So for me, maybe if he starts this to the right and he processes to the right, he sees this edge rusher make his play, and maybe he can either just dump it down to John Brown at his feet or just get rid of the football and live to see another down.
Yeah, and I think in his defense, with the too high safety look, you have the too high beater to the right side of the screen with Diggs and Knox going deep. But again, the deep corner route is Knox, and he's running it against Matthew. So I understand why he kind of comes off of that. I mean, could he have threw it up there? Maybe. Well, he does have Sorensen coming right there. It's a good job by Singletary, but it was just not good. It was one of those things it was just a tad off, man. It was like that all night. Everything was so difficult. So we're going to move on to this 3rd and 7 play in the second quarter here. So he tells Yeldon here, hey, go out real quick. I want to see what they're in. You see Sorensen kind of go with him. He's like, all right, come back in. I see what's going on here. But look at what the linebacker for the Chiefs is doing right there. You see him now change up the play there. So here it is. That's a chess match. I said last night with Anthony in our game review that it reminded me of Peyton Manning at the line of scrimmage versus Ray Lewis, and they're going back and forth at the line of scrimmage. So the Bills try to get the ball deep here on this 3rd and long play, and it's just not going to happen because there's an unblocked defender, and unfortunately for the Bills, that unblocked defender to the top of the screen is Tyrann Mathieu, and there's really no hot here when this is basically a cover 0. You can see there is no one back. It's cover 0. There's one free defender that is unaccounted for. That guy, Matthew, does a great job of smacking down the stiff arm of Josh Allen and just bringing the big quarterback down. I know Josh got it away, but you can see from the end zone angle, guys, like look at the chess match going out there and just look at the amount of rushers that could come. 1, 2, obviously the linebacker, 3, 4 right over the ball. And then you have 1, 2, 3 right here, because again, the only receiver right here is the running back. And of course he stays in the block. So you see what happens. The guys that are out wide eventually just pinch inside. That leaves Matthew wide open, and Brown's not ready for Josh to throw it over the middle. This is a play you'll see later on that he completes to Cole Beasley to the right side of the screen. But just so much going on here, and they tricked Josh Allen here, and he had no answer, which for most of the year, Brian Daboll and Josh Allen had answered for stuff like this.
Yeah, and the other instinct maybe you think here as well, just float up a ball and try to get this ball to John Brown, who's doing his crossing route. And the problem is he's not looking back at the quarterback. So if you throw this at John Brown, you're probably either going to doink it off his head and put the ball up in play for a defender to grab, or it's a tough situation on Josh Allen because it wasn't protected properly. And this again, I think to your point, it's wizardry at the line of scrimmage. That is having answers, and then when they make a change, you have an answer prefabbed for that change. And that's what they did all day. They knew what the Bills were going to check into when they showed it look pre-snap, and they knew exactly how to defend what they were going to go to when they changed. So it was this constant, and I would say this, there have been defenses this year that have been able to predict or maybe prepare for what the first layer would be, but no one has really been able to get to the second layer, right? And I think that in this game, they got to the Bills' second layer, and they shut down a lot of the Bills' answers to questions that they normally have answers to.
Right.
And that threw this offense off.
Yeah, and a good question in the chat is, was that up to Josh? Yes, that unaccounted defender is Josh's, but again, you got to have an answer. You got to have a sight adjustment. You got to be have a hot route, and John Brown wasn't ready. I don't know who the hot route would be. I would imagine it's the shallow route. But yeah, exactly. And you'll see later, Cole Beasley does a better job of at least getting his eyes to Josh. Josh knows that if I extend it just a little bit, I'll throw it to him. But it's something that you'll see later in the breakdown, Joe.
And the important thing to understand, though, is this play being called is not meant to beat the defense that was just switched into. And that's the important thing from our perspective, understanding, well, is that on Josh? I mean, in theory, it's on Josh. Yeah. But at the same time, he checked into a play that was supposed to, was a beater of the original coverage. And when they changed, what they did so well in this game was changing right before the snap, right as it was too late to get anything back to the original play. So I just think that was them being a step ahead of the Bills from a coaching, from a play calling, and I think ultimately an execution standpoint.
And Joe asks, what do you think the Bills would need to improve to better the run game, better backs, linemen, coaching style, something else? No, Joe, we appreciate that, man. We appreciate that contribution. For me, I agree with Brandon Beane, what he said today. There were a lot of different factors with the offensive line, all of the musical chairs going on there, the injuries. And in my opinion, the guards were not up to par the way they needed to be for this offense to run the ball. I think the running backs, while they aren't the speedsters, they are tackle breakers. They have good vision, and they can make people miss in a phone booth. And I think that if blocked up well, they could have had better years than they did. They could have been more efficient. They don't need to run more per se. They just need to be more efficient.
They need to be better at running when they run.
Better at running. And so, I mean, I think the Brian Daboll, his focus this offseason too, and Bobby Johnson will be to marry the spread passing game better to the run game, because there were only so many different runs that they could run from shotgun this year because it wasn't a good marriage between the run game and pass game. And a lot of times when they wanted to run the ball, they'd have to put Josh under center to have an efficient run game. And that's why you saw a lot of outside zone, which again, I think you can't live and die by one concept. You got to be varied, especially when you have such a diverse passing attack. You want to have some variation to your run game as well. So I think the offensive line, if they can improve some of the talent as far as run blocking goes, and then marry the passing game and the run game, I think they'll be just fine for next year. I'm not too worried about that when it comes to the run game.
So I think there's a lot of parties that wear some blame. I think part of it's Daboll. I think part of it's the offensive line, and I think ultimately, part of it is the way that the running back room was built. I think what they need to consider moving forward is the level of redundancy I think they have across the entire offensive roster at skill position. I think, in my opinion, I think you have one or the other with Moss or Singletary. I think they bring I don't know how you pick between that, but I think the other guy, to whoever one of those guys you end up picking, needs to bring a very different skill set, a speed level, a speed layer. I think if you want to have your north-south guy be Zach Moss, I think I'm fine with that. It's not that I dislike Singletary. I just think you can't have two guys that can't break away from people with their speed. Because then you have nothing. You don't have that.
See, I don't know. I think that's overrated a little bit. I think a third down a receiving back, I'm cool with that. I understand that, but I don't think you need to insert a speed running back into the lineup, because it doesn't matter if he's got speed. If there is no one blocking up front.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I
agree before you do that, but I think for me, the skill set of both running backs are similar enough. Like, I know that he's not Zach Moss, and I know Moss isn't Singletary, and they do bring a little bit different. For me, there seems to, like, when I look at the skill position, all the receivers that they play, they're all bringing, at least out on the field, other than Gabe Davis, between John Brown, Cole Beasley, and Stephon Diggs, they're all guys that are going to win at the line of scrimmage with route running and they excel at that. I'd like to see them add another, like a different style receiver, a straight line, bigger body guy that can take some of the physicality and take, like for me, what this comes down to on the offense is I'd like to see them add some different style pieces than what they currently have. I think they just have a lot of the same thing. And it worked this year, obviously. But I think they could be a little bit the variance in how they're going to beat defenses and the personnel they use. I think they can change that up a little bit and have a little bit more success, whether that's a better primary weapon at tight end that brings a little bit more size and athleticism, or whether that's a running back who can, maybe have some breakaway speed in the screen game, or I don't know. I just think I'd like to see them add some different style players. I feel like there's a lot of redundancy.
Yeah, I mean, tying back to run game real quick, we're kind of getting off track, but this is important because this is great offseason talk when you look at the draft, especially. I do agree. I think a third down, change of pace guy that is obviously faster than 4.6 or 4.5 or whatever, but having that receiving type back, yes, and a special teams player, because that guy's gonna have to be a special teams player. But what most
Taiwan Jones, but somebody that can play offense.
Yeah, what most people don't realize is that the Bills actually were quite high in explosive run rates. They were ranked 7th in explosive run rates. They had 12% of their runs were explosive runs, and according to Sharp Football Stats, and that's just the running back position. That's not including quarterback runs or scrambles. So the running backs for the Bills, as long as the holes are open, you're getting a running back to the second level into the open field. Like the running backs, Devin Singletary proved in 2019, he was one of the top elusive backs in Pro Football Focus's stats as far as explosive runs. So I think getting them to that next level is the hardest part. And it kind of goes back to what Bean said today. He said, one of the first things they said I love was how, hey, we screwed up. We didn't use Mitch Morse properly. Yeah, you didn't. The pin and pull concept was not there this year for the Bills. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of their explosive plays with Devin Singletary the year prior in 2019. So I love, hey, trust me, I love running back talk. I love talking about the run game, but this is a passing league, as someone said. So,
and it's a passing team.
Yeah, it's a passing team, hands down. Yeah,
don't. I think they're in their perfect world. They look a lot like the 2018 Rams, where Gurley is not a volume carrier of the football, but he's one of the most efficient. You need Todd Gurley that isn't Todd Gurley, right? In my opinion, you need a guy and a unit and a run offense that can be efficient in obvious pass looks. And they get tons of ideal run looks and they can't take advantage. Man, I think next year, if this offense can take advantage of those defenses that want to play light, that want to use a lot of defensive backs, man, their offense, their passing game is going to be better because of it.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills, like, keep it in perspective here. The Bills are a top 5 team as far as rushing attempts versus light boxes, the 4, 5, and 6 man boxes. They literally have top 5 in attempts versus the light boxes because of all those weapons on the outside. So the fact that they were ranked, I think they were ranked 17th in yards per carry against light boxes, like, that is sad. Yeah. That is sad. And that's not the running backs. I agree with Bean. It's not the running backs. It's a little bit of, again, the scheme. And the offensive line was just terrible. And the run concepts weren't good.
And the league knows it too, by the way, because I spoke to a coach after the Arizona game, a guy that I grew up with that's a coach on that staff. And he told me in that second half of that Arizona game, they knew the Bills wouldn't run even in obvious run looks. And that's an issue because I think they knew internally that even if they called a play against an ideal run look, that they weren't going to have success. And if you know that going in, I just think you're playing from behind.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. So, all right, 10th play of this breakdown. Got a little sidetracked there. So, this is a play that we're going to have some sound guys, and obviously the live color, listen to it, it's gold. The play is Balboa. So, they start with Beasley in the backfield, but then they obviously shift him out and bring Yeldon in. Listen in. So, there they are shifting. Now it's 2-by-2. And you can see, look at what the defense is doing immediately. Look at what they're doing. You see them switching and adjusting to the formation. Now listen in. So Gold Balboa is the call there. So again, now you see the defense doing what? They're checking to a too high zone coverage here. Normally, I mean, when Josh changes the play like this or alerts, obviously that's a new play call coming in, and usually that's when they want to take those shots down the field. So you see the Chiefs, they just say, you know what? Let's go to a base defense. Let's go to our too high coverage. So much so they put a linebacker out on Beasley.
Was up 9-0.
So now, obviously, the Bills settle in, and you see Josh here. He, much like, several touchdowns he's thrown to Gabe Davis as the number 1 receiver to the top of the screen, it's John Brown here. He tries baiting that corner to jump the out route to Cole Beasley, very much like that San Francisco 49ers game. So he right there, you see the little outbreaking route by Beasley, kind of curls it up near the numbers, and Josh wants that corner to jump that, the outside corner, but he doesn't. He jams. Look at how much he jams John Brown into the boundary and just really just waits Josh out. And Josh thinks that by separating his hand from the ball, that's going to get that corner to bite. He doesn't. He drops back and nearly intercepts the pass.
Caught a big break on this play. And this wasn't Josh's being reckless and throwing at a very clearly defended player. I think he's looking for the whole shot. And he's looking for the whole shot and assumes that things that he's done all season and reactions from defenses that he's played in these exact same looks all year were doing one thing. And it was just a totally different answer or solution was presented to him. And in this particular moment, it's too late when he releases the ball. He's trying to anticipate it. And, again, the defense this is aggressive zone defense. This is almost they're running man principles into this. They're not even really passing this off to that deep level safety because, frankly, I think they knew what Josh wanted to do.
Well, and to be fair, also, having studied this defense for a good week and a half, the Chiefs run a lot of good amount of zone coverage, but their zone coverages, as you said, have more man principles. So they're not dropping to landmarks or spots or a certain depth. They're actually playing the routes and they're playing it as if it is man coverage. But again, like if you watch it from the broadcast angle, it does look like Josh is trying to wait him out. He thinks by taking his hand off the ball and patting the ball right there, he's getting ready to trigger it to Beasley in the slot, but that corner doesn't fall for it. And he nearly picks that off. Caught a break there, but it's something that like Josh has had success running that type of play the entire year, man. It's just and that's the type of night it was, right? And here's another play where the Chiefs trick Josh Allen. So another play where they're showing pressure, similar to the play you saw earlier. They have guys up at the line of scrimmage, so Josh just go ahead calling out the protection, who we throwing hot off of. And again, 2x2 set. And this is the one where he's just throwing a little stop route to Diggs at the top of the screen, but he thinks that pressure's coming in very much the same way he saw it where Matthew sacked him, but they drop out. It's a simulated pressure. There's only 4 guys coming. It doesn't matter. Josh is all good, right? He's got Diggs one-on-one with Ward to the top of the screen. No, because he sensed that pressure and because he was kind of shook a little bit based on the pressure he saw earlier. The throws off. His mechanics were terrible. He admitted to it after the game that, hey, I let that one get away from me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of the yips right there. That's expecting a look. They dropped out of it, and he tried to quickly get rid of the football. And, at the end of the day, again, this is blunt force trauma. This is again and again and again and again and feeling like you don't have answers. This is the kind of confidence. This is the throw that you need confidence with. And we know that Josh thrives. He lives and dies with his confidence as a thrower. And when he's confident, there is nobody in the league that spins it better. And these are some of the plays you see when I feel like over and over and over again, you're presented with a problem that you can't solve.
Yeah, I don't know why he's setting. It's almost like he's setting the knocks here. Set your feet to your target. And I know he's gotten better. We talked about it every week. He's gotten better off platform. There's no doubt about it. But in these, pressure situations on third down, you got to be on point. And if you need to get your feet pointed to your target, do it, because that was there for the taking, man. It was that kind of night. Again, that kind of night for Josh Allen. So now we're under 4 minutes here, 3:15 on the clock, second quarter, 1st and 10 situation. And the Bills, they call a shot to Diggs down the field, and he's just bracketed really well. And so is Beasley. You heard Josh talk about this after the game. Man coverage, Sorensen traveled with Knox there. And so here is the play action, a fake and route combination. Again, Diggs to the bottom, running a post, deep over out by Beasley. And on the snap, watch what they do. Great job by Matthew of bracketing Beasley, taking inside leverage on Beasley, taking away that over route with a corner over the top of him. Then you have the corner to the bottom of the screen, outside leverage, safety, inside leverage on Diggs. So that's taken away. There's really nowhere to go. Top of the screen, Brown is bracketed. Brown is covered really well. And Josh really has nowhere to go. Somehow is able to extend this play several times, break the pocket here, and make a throw to Yeldon. And honestly, if Yeldon's not in the game with his size and his length, I don't know if the running back in the game and Singletary and even Moss, if he had played this game, I don't think he catches that. But watch it from this angle, because again, watch what the Chiefs do on this play. That's Frank Clark. He's in at defensive tackle. He's playing a spy here. And you can see Okafor on the right side here out wide. So Clark, and then you have another, I think over here is Chris Jones to the left side of the screen. And then just look at the pressure up the middle versus Morrison Bacher. So, the Chiefs did some things to Josh Allen to not only contain him, but when he does break the pocket to, kind of get in his face. But I don't know how Josh completed this to Yeldon, bro. I don't know how he did it. Just incredible. I mean, good stuff right there.
Sorry, I realized that was just on mute. Yeah, no, that's a Mahomes-like throw right there. And you see these throws pretty regularly. And I think I saw somebody in the comments section mention man, it's really disappointing. It felt like Josh could have run all over this defense. And I'm glad you pointed out the spy there, because that's just not the case. There was not the opportunities that you would have thought, considering how much man coverage they ran against the Bills, for him to just break away and run. Now, maybe he can run right past Frank Clark. Maybe that's the case.
And Feliciano's way downfield too.
He is. They're lucky they didn't get called for that. He's way downfield. Okay, he comes back a little bit. He comes back.
So, like I said, Clark was a defensive tackle on 14 snaps, the highest all year. I think the closest was 7. So they had a plan for Josh. And a lot of that plan was to not just have a spy, but you even saw Chris Jones line up, as I said, on the left side of the offensive line and push the pocket to get Josh to roll to the to the right side that had defensive ends in at defensive tackle. So they did some cool things, and it reminded me of Spag's game plan and what he did with the Giants in their Super Bowl run a few years ago, that NASCAR package with 4 defensive ends along the defensive front and, rushing forward and increasing the speed at that position. So here's another play. Beasley in the backfield, cover 0 adjustment. You see them settle into their formation and, the patience by the defense, especially Hitchens and Matthew on this play. So he lets them settle in, and then just watch the linebacker, 53. Look at him communicating. As the Bills settle in, you see him set the coverage, set the play here. It's a cover 0 look. And so Josh, he has an answer this time. He has a quick slant to John Brown. He completes it, but it's a good tackle, and he limits the play. He doesn't even get the first down on this. So again, the Bills have an answer for this cover 0 look, but they're not able to break the tackle here because in the middle field's wide open. There's a good chance he could score. I know Matthew is in the middle there with Knox, but there's a good chance that he could score if he could just get by that corner.
Yeah, and you expect John Brown to do that with his ability and his speed, but he doesn't on this play. But yeah, I mean, it's good. You finally have the answer to come back to this. And frankly, when they ran the 0 looks, I mean, not only were they getting free rushers in, but even the guys that weren't free rushers, your man on man, your big on bigs, were all losing their one-on-one battles on top of having free rushers. That's a difficult spot to put a quarterback in. I think it's part of the reason he had a little bit of the yips in this game, was even when he had the numbers protected, his guys were losing one-on-one battles. And I think that's a tough thing to overcome as a quarterback because it's right in front of you. You can see it play out in real time. This is a good throw. But yeah, it was a tough game for the O-line. This was a good example of that too.
No doubt. So we're going later in the game, second half, 9:57 on the clock. It's a 1st and 10 situation. Bills are down 12 points here. So this is a dagger concept. We talked about this several times this year. Really nice throw on the in-breaking route to the bottom of the screen to John Brown. So again, the second half, Josh started to get his bearings a little bit. This is you see a nice high-low combination from Diggs and Beasley from the slot position, the shallow cross to the top of the screen. Again, similar to the play we saw earlier with John Brown on that blitz, but watch the in-breaking route and throw right there over the middle from Josh Allen. This is a strike. Look where he's throwing it from, guys, right around the 26, 27-yard line, in-breaking route through a window right here, just inside the hash. Just a really strong throw and good anticipation by Josh Allen.
Yeah, what is that? 5 defenders immediately around him. Yeah, this is a really good window throw. They've got Tyrann Mathieu on the other side of the field, ready to match the pattern of Diggs coming across the field. And then you've got this beautiful window that opens up, and Josh Allen throws the football before he's even breaking into the window. So it's a really good anticipatory window throw. Good defense to have Diggs on this play, who I'm sure Allen would have loved to get up to over the top to. But he does a great job of reading the leverage of the defense, knowing that he's probably going to pass him off, which he does. He makes himself available towards that zone, but throws a beautiful ball. So yeah, this is probably one of the better plays we saw from this game.
Yeah, and at times this year, that throw for Josh, it's a concept he's comfortable with reading, but there were times where he wasn't setting his feet and driving it down the field. And a lot of people don't realize those deeper in-breaking routes are usually your second and third read. As you saw there, you had to wait for those routes to clear and for John Brown to get into that passing window. So moving on to the next play, 1st and 10 situation in the third quarter, right near midfield here. It's a play that the Chiefs send pressure from the top of the screen. So again, from Snead to the top, and you're going to see Josh extend the play and somehow get the ball to Beasley here. So much like the play we talked about where Josh didn't have an answer, he didn't have a sight adjustment. John Brown was running that shallow drag and really didn't get his eyes. You see Beasley do a better job of that here with that blitzer, the blitz coming from the field, and Josh is trying to extend the play. And I know he runs out the back of the pocket, but he's doing it for a reason this time. He's extending the play, knowing that he has a guy shuffling to the open field to the top of the screen and Beasley. And this was a really big play. It was a play where we're like, okay, they're only down 12. They score here. We're in business.
Yeah. So he does this in the red zone too, where he almost turns into, it feels like I'm watching Jim Kelly as he sort of backs out of his, really gains a lot of depth, but he does a great job of buying time. And there's not many quarterbacks that are going to run, 10 yards, 15 yards away from the line of scrimmage in order to create that space, but he's got the arm strength to do it. He does a great job of it's a great job of creating space, but he makes a 5-yard crossing route into a 25-yard crossing route.
And it's on the money, the run. Like that was a really good throw. And just recognizing this is that spatial awareness that he didn't quite have in the first half was like, okay, I know they're a +1 coming off the edge here, but I also know I have a route coming, from behind that blitz. He's replacing that blitzer. And I just got to buy a little time. And of course, Josh Allen has the arm to complete that. So 3rd and 3 situation, still in the third quarter here. This is a play in the red zone where the Bills actually get the coverage they want. They get a box coverage call. So here comes Diggs out of the 3-by-1, motioning to the top of the screen. And you see the defender right here. I think that's Sorensen communicating what coverage they're in. And I'll show you what that box coverage means after the snap. So Diggs is running basically a corner route here. He has Brown running the in route, the in-breaking route, the little dig route, and then Yeldon to the flat. So he has 3 options, 3 eligibles into the boundary, formation into the boundary here. And what Josh is trying to do is hit Diggs. And this is an awesome play because you'll see this linebacker has to push out wide to Yeldon. That's what the box is. They're boxing the 4-on-3 eligibles to the top of the screen. That's what that box coverage or box call means. So that means that with that linebacker going to the flats, Hitchens has to get all the way over to Diggs here because the safety is going to obviously ride this route a little bit with John Brown. So now Hitchens is basically on Diggs. Diggs has leverage on him, but Josh is under duress from Chris Jones, and the throw is just a tad high. You'll see it better from the end zone angle.
He almost makes a hell of a play, though. I mean, he was, a couple inches too high on this play. Otherwise, he makes maybe the throw of the game. But it's just tough because when you have Chris Jones, I mean, that's not just nobody. I mean, that guy in your face. But again, he puts it in a spot that, he overthrows his guy, but he puts it in a spot only Diggs can get it.
Yeah, this is unfortunate. Again, if Feliciano could just hold on, I think he's still going to kind of roll this way because he has the leverage and that throw. He's good at rolling to his right and throwing on the run. This play was there. You had Diggs basically matched up on Hitchens. He was out leveraged. This is a touchdown, but unfortunately it goes incomplete because of the pressure from Chris Jones. So we move on to the end of the third quarter here, 3rd and 13 situation. And this was just one of those plays like, okay, 3rd and long. There's really not many plays for that. The Chiefs roll out into a too high robber type look. It looks like a Tampa 2, but Tyrann Mathieu, who is rotating to the middle of the field right here, he is basically opening to the trips, the 3-by-1 side, and he's really robbing the number 3 here. And it's a play that reminds me of the Rams game late in the game where the 3rd and long situation and Josh and Cole Beasley converted on the very same play here. Watch Beasley in the slot as the Chiefs roll out into that too high look. Watch him attack. He sees Mathieu there and then just works back to the ball, and Josh throws a strike. And when I say a 2-seam fastball, this thing is low. It's only catchable by Beasley. I mean, it was a rocket, and it was good. I know he was short, but it set up a manageable next down. I mean, look at that throw. It's just amazing work in the pocket. Feliciano gets burned again, this time by Frank Clark, but Josh Allen climbs the pocket. And then again, watch him drop that arm down a little bit, and it's just low catchable ball for Cole Beasley.
Yeah, it's a beauty too. And his manipulation of the pocket. Again, this is one thing that will kind of continue to keep our eye on as we see Josh Allen's development. But it feels like a lot when Josh gets hit, the ball tends to come out. So one of the things I've been trying to keep an eye on in the pocket when he's making these kinds of moves, is he taking that left hand off the ball, or is he using some of the things he's learning in the offseason? We know he did a lot with his arm, and the placement of his arm and the sequencing of his arm. But the other good thing that I've noticed from him in the pocket is keeping two hands on the ball, which is really important when you've got free rushers coming in on you and you're trying to make plays around them. So great job by Allen to keep both hands on the ball, find his platform and deliver a really nice, accurate ball low and away.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Great point of how he climbs the pocket, keeps his hands on the ball, and then, of course, kind of shrugs his shoulders, shrinks that surface area that Clark could possibly grab, and then throws a rocket shot to Cole Beasley. So this is a play where the Bills actually have or want to run that cover zero wide receiver tunnel screen to the bottom of the screen. So I want you to pay attention to the deep safety. He, again, is kind of getting to cap the slot corner there, and I think Josh sees it, and he right there, he checks to that wide receiver screen, and that wide receiver screen should break down like this, where Cole Beasley is basically going to block the outside corner. You're going to see this guy Gabriel Davis kind of step back and get the screen, but the crowd was so loud. You see Beasley right there. He's like, what's the call? What's going on here? He didn't even get the call, which means obviously Gabriel Davis didn't get the call, and you see what happens as the ball snapped. He's throwing it, expecting a wide receiver screen, but these guys are running routes down the field, and the ball goes incomplete. Again, crowd noise. I forget what the count as far as attendance was.
17,500.
Yeah, so this was the biggest crowd that they've played in front of all season long, and you saw it on a play like this where, Josh saw the play really well. This is not a bad call if it's executed cleanly, especially with the corner to the bottom bailing, and it's still a 2-on-2, a hat on a hat. Who knows what Gabriel Davis does here, but they didn't get the call.
Yeah, it's tough too. I mean, that's the kind of play. I mean, we don't know if it's a successful play anyways. We don't know how the defense might have that sniffed out, but I think one of the things that we'll look back at the season and sort of use as a barometer moving forward is, listen, not very many young quarterbacks get to navigate unencumbered at the line of scrimmage with their pre-snap ability to get in and out of plays. Now, it's one thing to be able to do it. It's another thing to be able to communicate it in a situation where there's no fans in the stands in 25 seconds. Add the fans in the stands, and now you're talking about moving to your left to make sure that the people on the left side get it, and then all the way to the right. And that is time that is taken up trying to communicate one message. Now, imagine that, and then you add in the layer of a defense that is pre-snap and post-snap making changes to their coverage. Man, that's a tall task.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. It was disappointing. Josh said they practiced it all week. We talked about it last week too. Of course, Sean McDermott and this regime and this franchise, they're going to practice with some noise, some crowd noise. But again,
hard to simulate, man.
It's hard to simulate. And when you throw in the speed and all the stress of the game itself and what the defense is doing to you, rattling you and blitzing you, simulated pressure, like there's a lot. And I'm not trying to diminish. Josh didn't play his best game, but there are a lot of factors that go into that. And here's another one where, the routes aren't even able to develop because of the pressure from Chris Jones. Josh isn't able to really step up and let those routes develop. Somehow he's able to break the tackle, and you see him kind of reset there, which, I mean, when you watch it from the end zone angle, you're like, the ball's on this guy. Look, he's not even trying to run. He's trying to reset his platform to make a throw here. And he does, after escaping to the bottom of the screen, he does throw it to Diggs in the middle of the field, and Diggs somehow catches it. And it's, he's hit by the defender there. He's able to catch it. But I don't know how Josh, gets out of this pressure from Jones. I mean, he's wrapped up by Jones right there, and he's such a big guy and hard guy to bring down. He's able to reset, and then he's like, okay, let me get outside the pocket here.
And also let me throw one in the end zone.
Yeah, exactly, man. It was tough, man. I couldn't believe, he got the throw off, got out of the sack, first of all, got the throw off, and then somehow got it to Diggs in time with enough velocity where it's not broken up.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And, I wish there was more opportunities to see this kind of play earlier in the game. This is at this point a little too late making these types of plays. But listen, in order for him to win and for the Bills team to have beaten Kansas City, you would have had to ask Josh Allen to do a lot of this. And I think asking any quarterback, Mahomes, Allen, Rodgers, Brady, asking anyone to carry this much burden of, overcoming, one-on-one battles up front against all pro players, finding new ways and platforms to make throws. It's a lot. And when you can't navigate and you can't win from the pocket, which we know Josh Allen wants to win from, it's hard to do this all game, throwing across your body, even though I know that Patrick Mahomes makes it look so damn easy.
Yeah, he does it so frequently. That's so. Next play, a couple more plays in this breakdown. 3-by-1. We're in the low red zone here. This is a touchdown, McKenzie. So we're going to end this breakdown on some positive notes. Obviously, this is towards the end of the game. And watch Diggs in the slot. He's going to get bracketed. McKenzie is outside him. So look, you see the safety. You see the linebacker worrying about Diggs. Diggs clears it for McKenzie. McKenzie has leverage. He has speed to the middle of the field. Josh is under pressure and is able to get this throw off nice and low for McKenzie to catch it without taking a hit.
Yeah, nice job getting to the middle of the field and bracing himself, throwing an accurate ball, but it's a good window throw. On this play, I think, when you've got two guys over Stephon Diggs, that anybody you've got in breaking, you've got that small opportunity in that window to make the throw. So he does a great job of, getting points on the board. I'm glad, we looking at some of the positives here because I do think that as much as there were negatives in this game, there were certainly positives sprinkled in, and though it might be hard to, to think about.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of talk about in the chat room about, oh, look, another 4-man pressure getting home. Well, you guys got to realize, obviously, they have some good rushers, and their game plan did work. But the Bills and Josh Allen are one of the best teams against 4-man rushes. Yeah. Like, don't get it twisted. I'll prove you wrong right now. Yes, it was a good game plan by them, but the Bills are one of the top teams, as you can see here, in EPA per play against 4-man rushes, literally number one. So you can chill with all that talk. Like the Bills, you can stop with that. You can see them. They're one of the better teams against most of the rush. You see 3, 4, 5, and 6. They're well above average, and they're usually one of the top teams, top 5, top 10 teams in any of those, whether it's a blitz or just a 4-man rush.
Yeah, and the other thing too about, and I think I see a comment about the game not slowing down for Allen, and I don't know if I want to use that as an example of I think saying the game doesn't slow down for Josh Allen as an excuse in this game is taking away the competency and the level of play that the defense brought to the table, and their ability pre-snap to it's not about slowing down. It's just literally about changing what you see. And when you're a quarterback who, frankly, is one of the best quarterbacks right now in the league, not just young quarterbacks, but one of the best quarterbacks, and is asked to do more at the line of scrimmage than anybody, add in the crowd noise and add in a defense that was doing more really late in the sequence than any defense they faced all year. And I think ultimately this is the result you get. It's just they had answers. The Bills had answers, but they were too late. And they came too late in the play clock and too late in the sequence to change it before they could make the play. And I think that is ultimately putting the Bills in a really difficult spot. When you have the answers, but you can't implement them, that is a gut-wrenching feeling.
And whoever is saying that he is not processing or playing fast enough, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I talked about this last night. Always hear every broadcast this year, especially the primetime games. What were those commentators talking about? Completion percentage. And they were equating it to Josh, increasing his accuracy and placement, but that's not the case. Completion percentage is processing, pre to post snap processing, understanding what coverage they're in and getting the ball to where the ball needs to go against that coverage. That's what completion percentage is. So that 10% increase or whatever it is from last year, it's because of his processing. It's because the game is slowing down. It's because he is processing the coverages. I just don't, so many people have completion percentage tied into accuracy and placement, and that's just not the case. And again, completion percentage, if you look at that and that increase, that is telling you that Josh actually is playing faster, is seeing things better, is playing better from the shoulders up. And we see it all the time, week in and week out, this entire season, of Josh making changes at the line of scrimmage. But as Nate said, Spags and the defenders of the Chiefs, Matthew, Hitchens, had answers. And that's what chess is about. That's what this game's about. Right.
It's like, being on Family Feud or what's the Price is Right or whatever the game is that you got to hit the button and they ask you a question. You're like, oh, I got the answer. And then right as you hit the button, they're like, actually, we have a different question for you. And you don't know the answer to that, but you already diagnosed the original issue. It's just the timing of what the defense did and how they were able to move out. That is a veteran defense coached by a veteran and a very good defensive coordinator. And those are the types of things when you have Anthony Hitchens in the middle of the field who can and just be the general and communicate those changes. Not every team has the ability from first to the second level, but they communicate those types of changes and move in and out of plays as quickly as Kansas. It was super impressive. And saying that it was Allen not being able to process, or I think it takes away for how, frankly, fucking good that defense played in that game. And it just that defense just played an absolutely out of their mind type game. And sometimes it just defenses win. And I would hope that if the Bills had an opportunity to watch this film and get back to it, if this was a 2-game series, I think it would be more competitive. But it was just, listen, sometimes defense wins too. They get paid a lot of money, man.
Yeah, 115 is asking how much of the success of Jay had to do with the minimal crowd noise. Oh my goodness, no.
I don't know the success, but I would say their ability to do it quickly and diagnose quickly and move into plays quickly. Definitely, you're going to get that with
everybody.
But it's not just Josh.
Yeah, no, it's not just Josh, and it's very minimal, if any at all.
Communication, yes.
Yes, of course, communication. Yeah,
communication is great. Of course, that's going to make a difference, but that's not leading to him excelling and being able to process.
I mean, for him to put up the numbers he did with this offense and the improvements you saw in your face in year 3, like you can't deny that. Like, stop trying to pinpoint. Just like, I said at the top of how people are trying to pinpoint how do you stop them. There's not one given blueprint how to stop this offense. They're talented. Like, guys have to understand that and stop, trying to minimize the success they've had. And it's, again, I don't think the crowd noise was even anywhere had much to do with Josh Allen's success. There's just so many other variables that are way more important. This is the final play of the breakdown. Another fastball to Diggs here down the middle of the field, and it's versus Tyrann Mathieu over the middle of the field here. And you see the little skip right there by Diggs down the seam. And Josh steps up in the pocket and just throws a rocket shot to Diggs' back shoulder, which is perfect placement for him because if Josh throws it to the middle of the field, that's probably intercepted or broken up by Mathieu, as you see right there. Look at Josh manipulate the pocket. There's a high rush to the backside here by Clark, speed rush out wide. This guy goes low, so it's a high-low rush by the Chiefs, and Josh just sidesteps it, steps up, and he lets the ball go right around the 44, 43-yard line, and the ball's caught around the Chiefs' 18-yard line, Nate. Just a hell of a throw from Josh.
Yeah, it's a great throw. Keeps it elevated and gives him an opportunity to high point the ball. I love this little skip. Creates enough space between him and the defender, allows him to make this throw. But yeah, that ball had eyes.
I mean, it's a good way to kind of cap off this film room session and the entire year of film room sessions. We basically went every week this year without a hitch. And unfortunately, the last one, it wasn't a loss, but nonetheless, there was a lot to learn from this film. And given the height and, escalation of, how far they went into the playoffs, as we talked about from the top, a really good learning experience for the Bills team as a whole, and especially the guy that we've broken down all year, Josh Allen. So what are some things you're going to remember from this year, whether it's from doing these breakdowns of Josh Allen or just from this awesome run? I know a lot of people are disappointed, but you guys need to have the closure like we just gave you here and really look at some of the bright spots from this season, Nate.
Yeah, an important understanding of when they lost. They lost in the AFC Championship game. And if you thought, and if your expectation was that this team was going to win the Super Bowl this year, I think you're crazy. I think we all recognized they were playing with house money after after the Colts game. We wanted to see this team win a playoff game. That was the benchmark this year. They exceeded that expectation by a long ways. 13 wins. Watching your quarterback, it was a real delight, Eric, getting an opportunity to watch Josh Allen's development, really from the onslaught with no preseason, with a really shortened and modified training camp, without having an opportunity to be in the room. And I can tell you firsthand what the difference is between being on a Zoom and being in a classroom and on the whiteboard with a wide receiver like Stephon Diggs, early in the process. This year, I truly think that and I agree with Brandon Beane. I don't think Josh Allen's at a ceiling. I think that combination that led the league this year with Diggs and Allen is going to get better. I do think that, more than likely we've probably seen in the last of John Brown. I think more than likely he's going to be one of those tough roster decisions that Brandon Beane was referring to, just based on the potential savings and the emergence of Gabriel Davis. So I think, obviously, you and I got some draft to start to dig into here shortly.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really important draft for the Buffalo Bills. I think not only that, but I think this year's draft is going to be incredibly important for the Buffalo Bills. They need to see strides from AJ Epinesa in year 2. They need to see that step forward from Gabriel Davis after a really strong rookie campaign. Tyler Bass, like these rookies that really came in year 1 without a first-round pick that were able to sort of have an impact. Those guys we're going to really be looking to in year 2, and I think subsequently the year 3 guys as well, as we know that it's how important year 3 was for Josh Allen and Tremaine Edmonds. And I know Edmonds maybe didn't have the same level of success, obviously, or that step that Josh took, but 22 years old, Tremaine Edmonds. And remember that, folks, when we're complaining about Tremaine Edmonds, is that guys that are being drafted this April are going to be older than Edmonds coming into the league with 3 years of experience. And I think that experience is going to play large for Edmonds as he's moving forward.
He's young. He's played in a lot of games. And this year, Beane talked about it today. There were a lot of things going against him with the injury, with the opt-outs, with Starr not being in front. Yeah. He talked about how light the defensive front is, especially up the middle in this defense. I mean, everyone should know that by now. I feel like people have forgot that when that was, really the first storyline or narrative that was talked about when McDermott and Frazier were brought in, was like, okay, it's a linebacker-driven defense, but they rely on those occupiers up the middle in Lotulelei and even, other bigger guys up the middle. So you guys got to take that into account. Of course, the injury too. He was having trouble tackling, missed a lot of tackles because of it, but he does have to improve. There's no doubt. Every guy that was drafted by this regime, every guy that was brought in, they have to step their game up, because now they can see what that future holds if they can get back to that level of playing in the AFC Championship game. But I also think that this offseason, I think there's just a little bit more pressure on Brandon Beane and this front office because of the limited cap and how they're going to have to really kind of shuffle around some of the resources, as you said, with the John Brown talk, the Murphys, the Addisons, some guys that, there are some escape clauses in contracts, but the draft class, I think, is going to be very important. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting because this year it's all based on film, guys. Yeah. There's no person-to-person interview. So there's not that interaction between the coaching staff, the front office, and these prospects, like we've seen in past years, which when you talk to the front office personnel of the Bills, it's one of the first things they mention, like about, being the character of those players. So all film, I love that, but it's obviously going to hamper and handcuff a lot of front offices this year. And I think that draft class is going to they're going to have to be producers, given the cap situation, not just by the Bills, but I mean, across the league. This is not just central to the Bills. So
you know what they say, though, but you know what they say, Eric, it's lonely at the top. The Bills are in a very unfamiliar position defending an AFC East championship. I think they're up for the task, and listen, everyone else is playing catch up. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. So after several months of breaking down Josh Allen film, and it was a great year. He's improved a ton. It's been a fun year in the film room with us guys, but don't worry. We're not going anywhere. We're just going to shift gears. As I said, Nate and I will probably be breaking down some prospects throughout the offseason once we kind of catch up and watching film. So everyone, thanks for joining us in the film room tonight and all season. Nate, let everyone know where they can find you on social media before we take off.
You can follow me at Nate Geary Sports on Twitter. You can check out my work at WGR550.com. Sports Talk Saturday is going to be my show moving forward for where you guys can find me live content. And I'll be up on the website every once in a while too.
All right, brother, man. Appreciate you coming in with us every week. I'm Eric Turner. That's Nate Geary. We would see you soon, guys.